It's time once again to go racing.
It does not get any better than this.
The pressure is really on now.
Yes, it's pole position. Lights out and we're racing in PSGL.
The first lap has been absolute chaos.
What an overtake.
Oh no!
I've never seen anything like it.
Side by side again. This will be settled right at the end.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to the start of Season 30 over at PSGL. We saw the PC tiers kick off the season in great style, and it is now time for the F2 tier to take centre stage, and we head to a track that we visited last season for the very first time in PSGL. It is Portugal for the Portuguese Grand Prix. Who will step into Fabi's shoes and take home the F2 title this season? Well, by Bahrain on the 23rd of May, we will find out. My name is Jesper, one of your commentators throughout tonight's race and for the whole season. And joining me, just like the past couple of seasons, we of course got Owen Wyatt. Owen, how you doing?
Yes, hello viewers, and yes, we are back. Season 30, can you believe it? And once again, me and Jess are sharing the commentary box. And I'm hoping it's going to be another entertaining season. We've had two great seasons alongside each other so far. And with a great season opener, hopefully up tonight, we'll be looking to get Season 30 off to the perfect start.
Yes, indeed. The driver lineup has changed ever so slightly because we've seen the PSF1 guys, well, some of the PSF1 guys move to the PC. So this basically opened quite a few spaces in the top tier. So quite a lot of the guys such as Fabi, Gil, Suko, Jensen and Haller, they've all went to F1, which promotes the F3 guys to F2. We'll talk about that in a second. But calendar that we have got on offer for the season. Well, we're starting off in Portugal tonight. We just talked about that. We're heading to Silverstone the following week. Then we've got the dreaded Monaco, which is one of our I think it's our only street circuit for this season. So we had Baku last time. Then we head to France. Then we got Hungary, Austria, Saudi Arabia. Then one of the newest tracks in the game and on the calendar. And then we've got Belgium, Netherlands, Brazil. It's normally the season finale, but not this season. That's round number 10 this time. And then we got Mexico, Singapore, United States, Italy, and the final round, which is usually the season opener, but it's not this time. It is, of course, Bahrain. And by then we will know who will be the champion. But quite an interesting calendar we've got as well, and some quite challenging ones as well. But any ones that catch your eye?
I always look forward to Saudi Arabia in any sort of league race, and I've seen it a few times now where it's just such a good track for drama, and to have it sort of in the middle of the season could throw a lot of shocks up and sort of shake up what may be the established order by that point. So it's definitely a race to be looking forward to, that one. And it's always good to see Bahrain on the calendar, but this time season finale, we've seen so many good season openers from that track. So I think a season finale, it was about time we tried it. And so yeah, those are two races I'm really looking at.
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to Jeddah as well, because we're into the unknowns. Obviously, we saw Portugal last time. We got two new tracks as well for this season, so definitely something to watch out for. Now we looked at the calendar, let's talk about the drivers. Now we've got obviously everyone in their teams now, and we will see who to look out for. So in the Mercedes, we have got Baraka and WR Blaze. They were both, Baraka was in F2 last season and Blaze was in F3 last season. He finished third in that season, hence promotion to F2. In the Aston Martin, we got Kazizel and Tom. Tom finished second in F3, and of course we got Kazizel, who finished 11th in F2. In the Red Bull, we've got two of the PSGL legends teaming up together. We've got CC Brain, who's been in F2 for donkey's years now. He's one of the veterans in F2. And we got someone else that's made the jump up. Of course, one of our league directors, one of our head stewards as well. It is, of course, Kryptonite. He did quite well in F3 as well, so good to see him make the step up. And he's our F2 admin for this season as well. In the McLaren, we've got Shizu Cohen and Elting. I don't think Elting's here tonight, so that's why we only have 19 drivers. In the Alpine, we've got Dino and Ricky. Both were F2 reserves from last season. Same with Cohen and Elting, actually. They were all in F2. Valentin was in F2 last season. He is in the Ferrari. Joining him is one of our new drivers from this season, Las Vegas 16. In the Haas, we've got Azzy696, who was an F2 reserve, and Shizu Angia, who was an F3 reserve. Let's see if Haas can score some more points this season compared to last season. In the Williams, we got WR Yannick, who was an F2 reserve from last season, and IFR Legend, who was in F3. He finished P6 that did last season. And in the AlphaTauri, both from F3, we've got IFR Pat. Pat's not here tonight, so he's been replaced by someone else. But we got the F3 champion from last season. Is he here tonight? Yes, he is tonight in the AlphaTauri. It is Devon 3043. So I wonder how he's going to make the step up from obviously being crowned the top of the table in F3 to see how he settles in F2. So that's your grid. Quite a lot of names to look out for in terms of the title, Owen.
Yeah, so many, especially with this tier. It's always difficult to tell. A few names do stick out. I've got the likes of Baraka, who we'd said for a lot of last season had the pace, but just didn't quite have the execution. So we know he's quick. Valentin is back, having had a disastrous season last time, but we know he also has the pace. Perhaps he will have taken time over the break to sort of get the consistency down. Perhaps he'll be quick. And obviously Devon, being the F3 champion coming up, is a very strong place to be starting, and proves he's clearly good at the game. So perhaps he'll be able to hit the ground running as well. But there's so many variables which we see so often here in F2. Really anything can happen, and as we see Elting join, luckily we'll have all 20 drivers here to set our season opener underway. But yeah, we've said it before, we'll say it again. It's near enough impossible to predict this tier, but we'll try anyway.
We will try. So without further ado, let's get into qualifying. Now we've got all 20 cars on the grid, and they're all in the middle of their quali lap. So we've got CC Brain on their R lap at the moment. Few lap times on the ball. We got Azzy on pole at the moment. Shizu, Tom in P2. I think we're setting times roughly, I think we're predicted to be in the 1:15s, I would say, for most of our drivers. And then we already got Valentin that stepped up to the mark there at the moment with a 1:15.7. Now, this is a very interesting track because these drivers haven't had a lot of practice last season, but now they've got a full season out of their belt. No excuses. They had more time to practice this track. So obviously they had the Christmas and New Year, whereas last season they only had 2 weeks between when the track was released and when we visited it in F2. So I think we're going to see much quicker lap times and more competitive pace as well. But the tyre deck could be quite of an issue here right now as well. Just to point out a few reserves that we've got tonight. We have got Bolan in tonight, filling in for one of the drivers, I believe, in the Williams. He's filling in for Yannick, and I'm sure we got someone else. We've got Shizu Jax in the AlphaTauri, filling in for Pat. So those were our 2 reserves here tonight. Everybody else is full-time, but Valentin, just like last season, he's proven to be a bit of a quality merchant, and he's currently top of the timings.
Yeah, good gap at the moment of a quarter of a second, Bolan in second place. And we'll see how that holds on. Obviously, only the first runs. A few people went and did theirs on the mediums as well, so we haven't seen everybody up to pace yet. And it will, as usual, always be about those final runs. So it's good to see a benchmark time. No, Valentin, he got pole, if I recall, in Canada just based on his first lap, just due to how people find it difficult to get laps in the end. So each and every banker does count. But yeah, we'll see how that holds. I do expect they will get a little bit quicker, as we see CC Brain cross the line. He's again on mediums, so we're not seeing everyone quite at full pace.
No, we're not. Actually, a few people just getting a feel for the track, but I wonder if a few people just want to get their soft runs out of the way, because like we said a few times last season, the banker laps for some people were enough in the first few laps of qualifying. So if you don't get a good lap in now, you have it all to do in the final part of qualifying as well. And you just passed turn 8 and in towards turn 9 is because it all has already invalidated, unfortunately. such easy to get penalties around here, and penalties could play a massive factor in this race. So we're going to see how qualifying is probably going to be one of the most crucial, because it's fun to drive. For some drivers, they don't think it's fun to race, but we were asking the drivers before coming into this race what their favourite track is. Quite a few people like Portugal. IFR Pat likes Portugal. He's not here tonight though, but Andrea, one of our drivers here tonight, he's in the pits. He likes Portugal as well. So no, he doesn't like Portugal. So Andrea, I think, is a bit worried tonight, but at least he gets one of his worst tracks out the way, and he could look forward to the next tracks coming up soon as well. Anyone else has got Portugal as their best track? Doesn't look like it in terms of the question. So it looks like it seems to be a track where you're in the middle of it, you're okay, or you don't like it at all. But personally, it's an okay track, and I think we'll definitely see some more battles.
Yeah, I do think it's a fun track to drive, I do agree, and there's actually a lot more variation here, especially with like the turn 8 where Kazizel is right now, where you climb up the hill, and it's a very unique sort of traction zone. So, you know, it's a fun track and it challenges the drivers, so I can see why you might not like it though, because it can, well, maybe be too challenging for some people, but well, they'll all have to race it anyway. I'm sure they'll be fine, as Kazizel heads through the middle sector, and he's actually someone I didn't mention, because he's also a driver that we've seen can be quick. Had a bit of bad luck last season, particularly in Silverstone when he got disqualified for trying to pit. Heinous crime, if you remember. But we know he's got the pace. As he crosses the line, he goes second fastest, so he can be a contender as well. And he went off sequence there, so I wonder how that's going to pan out for him in the rest of the session, because it could sort of trip up later on, but hopefully for his sake, he will be fine with that.
Yeah, he should be as well. He's hoping for a few podiums and maybe a win as well, where he was almost getting a win last season in quite a few races as well. So he definitely has the pace, and he's definitely going to be up there as well. And even though he finished 11th in the standings as well, he wants to aim for top 5. Well, he was in the top 5 for the first half of last season, if I recall, as well. But just those few races where he was just so unlucky, that costed him a few places. But obviously he has done enough to stay in F2. I don't think there was any people that got demoted to F3. So everybody either got promoted to F1 or stayed in F2 or got promoted from F3 as well. So Kazizel is one of the early favourites going into this as well. His favourite track, actually, we'll keep an eye on these throughout the season, actually, because we will go back to these. His favourite track is Mexico, and his least favourite on the calendar is either France or Austria. I get France, but I don't know why about Austria, because Austria is just a fun track to drive, but some people don't like high-speed corners, as most people are on their second laps this early stage right now, as we're seeing 3 drivers already invalidated, as KJ has retired from the session. He's not going to get a lap in, but let's see how his teammate does on his out lap as well. A few people are about to cross the line to finish their laps.
Yeah, so we've got a few on there, a few also still invalidating. Las Vegas is one of them on a lap, but just behind him, Tom, who's making a few gains. We've seen so many times how tight these gaps are, and obviously if you want to start on the soft compound tyre, you want to qualify inside that top 10, that'll need to be your starting tyre. Outside top 10 you might well see some variation, but it'll be a couple of 10s that decide that, as a few more get up to the line, and we'll see how many actually get bad laps in. Andrea went 8th fastest. Valentine has extended his advantage, so that's 2 good laps from him so far. No one matching that or anywhere close to matching that as of yet. We'll see how Dino gets on up at the moment, but can that improve any further? It does, but only to 14th place. A few more out there. Cece Brain's on an out lap. Louis is on his way to the pit lane. Baraka's only starting his first lap now. Now, this is something we saw a little bit from him last season, isn't it? Where he never could get the qualifying lap in. He was almost the opposite to Valentine, where his race pace was decent, but quali sometimes messed him up. So this needs to be a good start to his season in the Mercedes, and this really does need to be a properly good lap.
Yep, it does as well, as he heads towards turn 1 and 2 as well. Nice gradients around this track as well. The gradient changes just makes it so unique. Remember, it's a MotoGP track, so it's kind of not really designed as a Formula 1 track, so that's why people are finding it difficult. Past Torre Vips now, into turn 5. You head towards turn 6 very soon. Very flat out once again. Bit of a roller coaster section coming up. and blind before the quick right-hand corner of turn 7. Braking into turn 8 at Portimao, very tricky. People can have a bit of a spin if you roll off the brakes. You carry a lot of speed into the apex and then up the hill. And then after the steep hill, once again, go to the fast and very, very brave turn 9, where you go down the hill and now up the hill into turn 10. Extremely technical section as well. And it's very important that you get this section of the track. And then you're going to be heading towards turn 13 and 40. Move the car back to around about the left-hand side of the circuit as we head to the part of the circuit where Lando Norris said we're moving up and down, side to side. Well, we're not going to really talk about that, but Baraka comes across the line. He's last at the moment. One of our high-scoring drivers from last season, on the ones that are still left, of course. He's currently second, a few tenths shy of Valentin right now, but pretty decent time. 3 thousandths quicker than his nearest rival, Cohen.
Yeah, and we've got Kazizel now. He's again gone off in an off-sequence lap. So he's actually, I think, the only person on a quali lap. And let's say he should be able to get back to the pits after this. We've got 6 minutes 20 on my clock left. So he should be able to get back to the pits after this if it doesn't go perfectly well. But it does appear to be on a decent one so far. Any improvement will get him effectively onto 3rd place, if not higher. I think he should be able to be aiming for that at least 2nd place. Again, the quarter of a second that Baraka's got to Valentin, even bigger for because it's just over a 1/3 of a second. And well, we've seen it, like I say, so many times with Valentin. Will he keep hold of it? As because he navigates the roller coaster section relatively well. He's about a 10th up, so like I said, it should put him either 3rd or 2nd, and see if he can keep this momentum up as he heads through the last couple of corners. And now a tricky traction zone, actually. You can see him short shifting to 5th to make sure he can get full throttle just a little bit earlier, because it's actually a deceptively really difficult traction zone. And you can see tight to the inside of that last corner, shortens the run up to the finish line, and he does go P2. Not by much, it is very close, just 6/1000ths of a second separating 2nd and 4th place. But once again, Valentin does appear to be clear of the pack. But it is Kazizel in 2nd place, behind his former team, of course.
Yes, indeed. Obviously, we've got Haas drivers, obviously down in 8th and 11th, so they're not quite near the bat as of yet, just like obviously in real life. It is equal performance for those of you that are wondering, for those of you that are new to PSGL. And just like last season and throughout the entirety of the season, points are scored. 1st place, 16 points. So not like the traditional Formula 1 as well. It just makes the racing a little bit closer. And it makes the title even closer as well. Because to be honest, for the last 2 or 3 seasons, the championship either went down to the wire in the final round or it got decided in the penultimate round as well. So, you know, that's why people should enjoy the rest of F2. Let's have a look at our F3 champion from last season, Devon. I think he's got a lot of expectations, but everyone has a bit of high expectation for the one that gets moved up. But for Devon, honestly, he's got to get used to high caliber drivers. Obviously, there will be a lot quicker than him as well. It's still the same game as last season, so he'll probably be a bit slow at the start of the season, but gradually we'll see quite a few more people start to improve as the season goes on. So watch out for Devon for the rest of the season, but for now he's just finding his feet in a higher tier, and he's going to show obviously Connor and Louis why he deserved to be promoted in the first place, because obviously it was respectable that the F3 champion got promoted to F2, because if he didn't, he probably would have dominated F3 once again. So Devon up to the line, shortest run possible. He's 13th for now, and it is a 1:16.0, puts him in P7, so a few place improvement, not too bad. He's almost close to the 1:15s, as most of the drivers as well, but if he finds a few more attempts, he could be up where the big boys are.
Yeah, he's a decent start so far, isn't it? Definitely seems confident out of the blocks, which is nice to see. We've got the Haas of Andrea crossing the line, going P9. But yeah, a few people are already heading out for their final runs, while others are on in-laps. So it will be a sort of a tight turnaround for some of these guys. And I wonder just how much crossover there's going to be with people starting flying laps and then getting caught up with people on out laps. We've seen it a few times actually last season, didn't we, where people would have their laps ruined, but since they went out early, they could do a second run. I think a lot of people have been doing that, where they go out about 3 or 4 minutes to go, mess their first lap up, and luckily they have time for a second one. But not everyone's doing that at the minute, but I think the first few that will be starting their laps will be doing so shortly. And Dino, I think, is the first, so he's starting his lap. Plenty of time on the board. If he needs to try again, he will. but he does have plenty of room, and this should be the first of the final runs.
Yes, I think 2-1 should be enough for these drivers as well, as long as they have enough ERS and fuel to manage as well. So we will see, of course. The drivers obviously had a lot more experience on this track as well, so they know when's the best time to come out as well. And they know the weather around this track coming into the race. We don't, so you never know. It could rain throughout the race. But we did see the drivers on the medium compounded tyres throughout the start of qualifying, so I don't think it's going to rain right now. We'll see how he does through turn 8 as well. Bit of a slide as he comes through that corner, and I think we'll see a lot of slides at the moment as well. Quite a few yellow flags, that's just people moving out the way. Like we were speaking earlier, traffic could be a bit of an issue going towards Torrey Vip, I think, with the straight, but we'll probably see people move out the way. As Devin has retired from the session, I'm trying to see if he's retired in the pits or if he's retired in the pits, so he decided enough's enough. Same with Andrew as well. He thinks he can't go any quicker. So Dino up to the line. He's going to be the first person to set one of his first of 2 laps. Is he going to be higher than 17th? Not higher than 10th, but he's going to be in 12th position, 1:16.1. We've got an AlphaTauri of Jax on its out lap. And then we've got Louis, I believe, that was next. Well, he was next, and he has invalidated.
Yeah, we've got all sorts going on, by the way, at the final sector. I think Tom and Cone were getting out of the way, but I think Cone was actually on a flying lap. He's ended up off in the runoff area, and if he's not careful, he can get disqualified because of the way the game is. If you're sort of blocking or stopped, it really can get you in trouble. Luckily, he's okay and can get a lap in, and hopefully that'll be everyone okay. Ferrari went off as well at Las Vegas. That was what I was talking about, and that is a car at turn 1's apex, possibly getting in the way of somebody's lap. Nothing that he could do about that, of course. But it might have been Jack's that was done because he's now gone off the road as well. So a lot of people are actually struggling to get these last runs done. We've got Santori coming around the final corner for Alfa Romeo. He's all on his own. And this might not be the worst position in the world to be as he comes through, climbs on the curbs through that last turn, really trying to take as much of the inside curb as he possibly can. And he goes into P7. Not a bad run. Next up, I think we have Dino again, but obviously he had already done a fast lap. His teammates off the road, as are a few more. Really are a few people. Louis out of the session, in fact, so that could even be an accident for him. CC Brain is on a lap and making some improvements, so I think he will be next up. His teammate crossed the line in 10th place, and there might be a bit of a distant tow actually to I think that's Las Vegas in front of him. So CC Brain might gain a little bit in the last sector. Will it be enough to get into the top 10? Not quite. Sits 13th for now. 2 Mercedes coming up as well. Baraka will be the first one. His teammate Blaze will be behind. Can Baraka get an improvement? No, he can't. And Blaze will not be able to either. So that could be drivers affected by their problems earlier. Valentine, he's not been challenged the whole session. And he
does not improve.
Not improve. But as you can see, if you look on that, a lot of people are not getting the laps done. I think that might actually be it. Unless, no one's on a lap. So, I think that will be Valentine on pole. He has never really been challenged the whole session, and with all the issues on those final quali runs, no one could really improve. So Valentine, for Ferrari, is on pole here in Portimao. We've seen this a few times before where he's been able to get up into pole position. Will he finally be able to convert it into a win?
Or even points, to be honest. He's been very, very unlucky when he's got pole. He's hardly got any points as well. So could he get his first points in PSGL? Obviously, he doesn't have his teammates from last season to worry about. And he had the bad luck in the Haas. And he's probably decided that he thinks the Ferrari will have much better luck as well. We're just waiting for a few drivers to go into the pit. So 3 drivers from F2 last season occupied the top 3 in the qualifying. And then we got Cohen, who's also in F2 last season, in 4th. Azzy, who was in F2, in 5th. Highest F3 drive from last season. I know it's a reserve, but it is Bolin. Bolin, I think that's how you say it. He is one of the highest from the F3 guys, so that is very, very great to see as well. And Jax, I'm trying to see where Jax is. He's quite lower down, but and then we've got another F2 reserve in P7. So let's run through your order then. So we got Valentine on pole by 2/10 per second, and we got Kazizal, Baraka, Cohen, Azzy, Bolin, Santari, Ablaze, Devon, and Kryptonite complete your top 10. Now have to start on the softs, of course. And then we've got Andrea, Legend, CC Brain, Ricky, Dino, Tom, Las Vegas, Louis, Jack, and Elton. Elton, the only driver who did not set a lap time.
And so we will go to the race, and I think last season it was a wet start if I recall, so I'm not sure we've seen these guys actually do a proper dry strategy on this track, so it'll be interesting to see how they go, because it is definitely a dry start for this season's opener. And so this in a way for the F2 drivers will be kind of still a new challenge for them, so I'm very much looking forward to see how they get along with this.
Yeah, me too as well. And Luke, obviously our PSF1 commentator in the chat, has just pointed out actually, Valentine's pole time was faster than Juice's pole time from Portugal last season in F1. So it just shows that Valentine has the pace, but he just doesn't have the consistency in the race. If he did better in the race as well and matched his qualifying pace, he would have been in F1 for sure. And he would have been challenging for the championship. But he's in F2, so that is what he's got to deal with as well. So Valentine setting the ground already from day one. Obviously the first pole position. Can he convert it to a win? Because it's always been up there on his day as well. Can he get the bad luck behind him and convert it into a race win or even a podium as well? Baraka, obviously his main rivals from the championship last season, the likes of Suko, Fabi, obviously our F2 champion from last season, Gil, those guys are gone. Those guys are gone in F1, so all he's got to rely on is the ones who were left behind, and of course himself as well. That's all he's got to worry about is himself. So formation lap then for the drivers. Nice and sunny here in Portimao. And the tyres that we've got in today, only 2 on the softs. That is Tom down in 16th place and Elton, who is down in 20th place as well. So not what I would have gone for, but it's either going to be probably most likely soft to medium or medium to soft, because we saw that in the PC tiers last week as well. We got a bit of a sneak peek on what the strategy was like as well, and it could be likely that there could be a safety car, but it's not as likely as the other tracks on the calendar as well. But we just get a feel for the drivers first as well. Let's see if we do not get as many retirements as well. But yeah, Tom and Kelting have got to have a magnificent start, because otherwise going on the softs is less meaningful for them.
Yeah, they've got to be really fast off the blocks. It could be a very exciting first couple of laps, actually, for those guys. Although I am just saying, is Elting actually in his car? Because obviously he's running around as Lando Norris at the minute, and that would suggest that he
joined midway through the session, and if you join midway through the session, it gives the real-life driver number. It's annoying.
It is a bit annoying, but we've seen a few times the game doesn't let you drive. Of course, they fixed that today, didn't they, actually, in their patch notes, so technically this shouldn't actually be a problem anymore. Fingers crossed, anyway, he can get underway, because we've seen all sorts of glitches caused by this type of thing before. But if we are to believe what Coolmasters say, hopefully, even though he doesn't look like he's there, he is honestly there. So he'll be exciting to watch, and as we said, Tom as well, because those soft ones, they really should be getting their way through the field. There's so much more grip in the likes of that turn 8, and basically the whole roller coaster section, really, in the middle sector as a whole. So it should keep them close as they head towards the DRS zones, which obviously get enabled on lap 3. And yeah, hopefully they can get themselves out of the grid. But the main runners are heading to the front of the grid, and those pre-race nerves, they're back once again. Who's going to handle the pressure? It's not an easy turn 1.
It is not, and some people haven't raced since Christmas, so again, the rustiness will probably be there as well. They haven't been used to league racing for so long, and it's the first race of 2022, but most of these guys as well, so they have got to really start to get the pressure. And let's get with the 5 lights going on, and I'll hand it over to you once again for the start for the very first race of 2022.
Well, here we go. The lights are coming on. And season 30 of the F2 PS tier here in PSGL is underway. Now, let's see who gets off the line best. It seems that Valentine's okay. Baraka, though, is flying up into second place. A lovely downhill plunge towards turn 1. Who gets through turn 1 clean? There's a big potential for contact, but they all seem to be relatively okay. I think there's a couple of cars perhaps in trouble. Dino out at the back of the grid. First proper braking zone. A lot of side-by-side action and a really tricky run up the hill. and it appears that most are relatively decent. The front runners keeping it clean. A bit more side by side for behind though. You've got the likes of Devin and Azzy, and we'll see how they go. Devin making the moves. The F3 champion getting his elbows out, and he's in 7th place at the moment, so holding on against the Haas. But Valentine, the leader, he has kept position. Let's see how he can handle the pressure from Baraka, who will absolutely be hoping he is the man for the challenge this season, having shown so much potential last time out.
Yep, no excuses for Baraka as well, and yes, he got past Kazizal quite comfortably as well, as we're starting to see some moves in the background as well. Dino obviously having a bad start as well, but his teammate is going side by side there with Louis as well, heading towards the final few corners of this sector, and it looks like Louis just about holds on there as well. We've got Las Vegas as well, one of our new drivers fighting with Jax as well. Jax came from F4 last season, so a big jump for him, and he has to show what he's made of as well. We're on lap 2 for now as well. Baraka still edging close right now. The DRS train will go very, very soon. Another person that is close though, heading towards turn 1 is Legend. He's on the back of Andrew as we head towards turn 2 and then towards turn 3. They almost hit each other. That was quite close, lads. Let's hope they don't make any contact or damage as they head towards turn 4. We got Legend and Tom going side by side. We got Elting, who's made up places up the start. He's up to 13th already as we head towards Torre Vib. Can he make another position? This is insane battling from these guys. Tom up to 12. Elting's going to go side by side to turn 6. They're going at it at the moment. Who said you can't overtake here? These guys can overtake in these middle parts of the track. Elting from last on the grid is up to 12th.
Find that incredible. Elting, he gets pushed a bit wide by Tom off the road. That doesn't deter him. He just sticks his foot to the floor and still makes the move anyway. Up into P12. And yeah, well, we said they'd have an exciting start to the race. I don't think Elting stun yet. Look at him, all over the back of the Haas. He might well be looking at a good run at that last corner, because like I say, these soft tyres should have extra attraction. You can see what I'm talking about as he flies through that final corner. No DRS just yet. He will get a first dose of that at the end of the first sector, but definitely good stuff so far. Valentine's still leading as well, but like I say, this DRS train, it's basically going to cover the entire field at the moment, so that will be maybe not as big a factor, but oh, Elting, look how deep on the braking zone he is, and Tom might fight back. Look at them side by side, really close stuff in that really tricky slidey traction zone. And Tom now, this is the one who he's going to go off the track and try and gain advantage. He's done the same thing as Elting on the last lap, but he couldn't quite get the overtake. But those two are providing superb entertainment, but what they've really got to be doing is working together to get by that Haas. Then they can fight all they want, because they'll have done the job of getting onto the back of the rest of the soft runners. But don't let the other mediums get back at you, because they can mess your race up as it stands. Now Baraka, what's he going to be like? We'll see how he handles this first massive DRS zone towards turn 1, because you'll have the runner at the final corner. He's got an okay amount of DRS. If he wants to make the move, he will. It's more about maybe if Kazizzle fancies it, but what we've seen, the trend has always been, don't make moves early in the race. It never seems to happen, but they've surprised us before. Let's see how they handle it. I wonder if there'll be a little bit of an element of those two behind Valentine know what Valentine tends to end up doing, as we see a Mercedes of a Blaze facing the wrong way, but I think that might just be a decent problem. But like I say, even Cohen as well. Cohen, Kazizzle and Baraka know that Valentine struggles as the race goes on, so I wonder if that will influence their racing as well, where the likes of Bolin and Santry and Devin, they won't know, and they may push on a bit more. So this will be possibly maybe only the first couple of races, but we'll see where the experience in F2 possibly differs with the rest of them and how that will affect the racing.
Yes, because the pressure usually being in a higher tier is absolutely huge. Remember, when people go from F2 to F1 in real life, they find it tricky as well. It's like that as well, and this is why the top 4 are shining. They've had experience delivering in high situations, because they want to be in F1 next season as well, so they're showing off their methods as well, and they've pretty much got no points. Nobody's got no points as well, so they're just racing for a championship charge. And to be honest, obviously a few drivers handling it well in F3 in the top 10, but there are some F3 drivers that are not handling the pressure down behind as well, as we're starting to see the soft runners coming through. And I think Elting and Tom definitely made the right decision going on to those soft tyres at the start of the race, because they made that strategy work as well. So we both had our doubts, but to be honest, they definitely made the right decision. I do believe Blaze is desync on our screen. So do apologise if you can't see any battles from him right now. Baraka's got even closer to Valentine on this lap. He's going to have the DRS. He's got plenty of ERS. Valentine's got more though, so I think that's why Valentine's going to stay ahead for now. And this is where Baraka's experience, I think, is going to come to help him a little bit more. But still, the DRS train is growing and growing and growing. We got position changes left, right and centre. Biggest position gainer out of everybody is, no surprise, Elting up 8 places. Second place after that is Tom, up 3 places. And then we got Louis up 2, Jack up 1, and quite a few people up 1 as well. Centauri, Bolin, Baraka and Devon. Quite a few people stayed where they are. And then we got Kazizel, who lost 1 place off the start. Pretty much stayed in third for the entire race up until that point. And we got Azzy that's dropped down 3 places. Legend and CC Brain has dropped down 2 as well. And obviously Ricky being our biggest loser down into last place. And both, I believe, the Alpines are not doing a good job. I think we could see the Alpines turn into a bit of a Haas situation, but OP is a very good team. We've seen it in the Esports Cup as well, them having a battle with FVR as well for second place in the championship. So they're an alright team. We're not used to seeing them at the bottom of the field, so I've seen better from this team, but hopefully this is not the Haas that we've seen from last season.
Well, in fairness, Dino was, I think, facing backwards at turn 1, so he's not done too badly actually to get back onto the train and actually get ahead of his teammate. They might just well be struggling just because this DRS train is the entire field. So if you're at the back of it, you sort of have no chance unless stuff happens in front of you. And that might be what they're waiting for. So I do hope they aren't a Haas situation. I don't imagine it will be. If Dino is able to catch up quick enough, then I'm sure they'll be alright. But yeah, we are sort of in that stalemate situation now, aren't we? I think it'll be where we get to see who tries the varying strategies. Will anyone risk a 2-stop, for example, and maybe try and rush through the field at the end of the race? A lot of people are doing different things with the ERS as well. So many different strategy points to think about, because you've got the likes of Kazizel, for example, who's been saving his ERS. He's on sort of the mid to high 80s, while others like Baraka are 30% lower and possibly under threat. They'll need to worry about this type of thing for when they actually try their pit stop strategies, because it'll give them more to play with when they're on their in laps and their right laps, and it could be the difference. As Las Vegas in the Ferrari appears to have had a moment at the back, but has recovered it. No damage on the car. Just wants to be careful if he does have, if he has had a spin, that he doesn't overheat the tires and go for another one, because that's what we tend to see happen. But it looks like he'll be able to cool the tires down that straight, and he should be able to catch back up, all being well.
Yeah, he should as well. He deserves to be in this tier more than anyone as well, because he's one of the only new drivers in this tier as well. Las Vegas, obviously a few drivers being recruited to PSGL after the successful 30 seasons since F1 2011, F1 2012 as well. So it's nice that we get to see drivers who are quick from the get-go and go into the top 3 tiers, for example, as well. And who knows, they may make it into F1 esports. So it's early days. You may be struggling at first, but take it maybe a season or 2. You may be up there in, say, season 31 when we go on to the new game. So good experience for now for Las Vegas. But yeah, I agree. Thank goodness he didn't get any damage there at this moment in time as well. So I think we're starting to see the F3 champion Devon on the back of Santari as we head towards the final corner as well. No one is eager to go for a move yet. Who blinks first? That's going to be our question for today as well, as they head towards turn 1. Not people using their ERS. I don't think Devon's using his ERS, where Santari is using a lot. So I think that's where Devon is going to have the edge, and that's where we could see the next overtake right now, as they're all bunching close together, as he's got the first time penalty of the session on lap 8 of 33, and that is 3 seconds added to his time at the end of the race. And if there is a safety car, that could be huge for his race. Nobody's going to make a move into Torre Vip there. I thought Devon was going to be, but again, the dirty air is just preventing any of those drivers from making a move. Same with the DRS trains too. So yeah, it will come down to the pit stops, and it will come down to if people want to try the undercut or the overcut.
Yeah, like I said, it is just a stalemate, isn't it? So we just have to sit and wait, I suppose. Of course, mistakes could come into play as well, but I think they're all being very sort of mature with their race strategy at the minute. And it is worth sticking around for, because it's good that they're all staying close. Of course, the Alpines, they might have lost out a little bit due to Las Vegas spinning, because that might well have taken them out of the DRS zone as well. So that's why they've dropped out, perhaps. But the rest of them, they're all being careful. I think if they wanted to go for the moves, they could, but there isn't really much of a point. It's really about using the ERS to sort of stay close. If they could see what everyone else's ERS was, I think it would maybe add an extra element to it. But for now, there's no real reason to do anything apart from sit back. Although, Azzy is making mistakes now. I wonder if he is starting to sort of run out of tyres, because that's he's going off at that turn 1 every lap, and you'll notice he's now outside the DRS zone of Devon, who's also right on the back of Santry, who's having to defend to the inside as Devon has a look on the outside. Will he be able to cut back on the exit and try and make a move? Not quite. And Santry was also looking at the back of Bullen. Like I say, they're all so close to each other. But I think Azzy will end up being the driver who starts to be under the pressure soon, because you look at him missing the apex at 8 as well. Though some people do take the wide line in there, I do think his tyres might be slightly starting to fade. And it's drivers like that might consider, oh, a blaze into the wall! Was chasing, but was fighting too hard and lost it in the roller coaster section. Now that could bring out safety cars with front wings off the track, but I think it'll be okay because the yellows would have stayed out. Although they have come back out again because the blaze is letting people through. But Azzy, I said he'd be under pressure. He's not the only one, clearly, with tyre troubles. And it looks like Baraka's getting very close to Valentine. He was looking a little bit slide out that last corner. And with the DRS and the run towards turn 1, are we about to see a change for the lead here as Baraka stays on the outside line, doesn't want to take any risks as Baraka down the inside, goes for it. But look at the switchback. Valentine is going to fight this one and stays ahead. Fantastic stuff there, really clever racing. But now Baraka gets another chance at a cutback up the hill, and he'll use his ERS as well. And the fight for the lead is getting really hot here. As here he comes up the inside again. Will Baraka just send it deep, make sure the Ferrari can't come back at him on the exit? Baraka is into the lead.
There we go. This is what we like to see, folks. A battle for the lead, which goes down to the wire until the pit stops as well. We saw Elting go into the pits for his undercut strategy for the mediums. That is early, though, so that's going to be a tough choice to get to the end. So he's more than likely going to be doing a 2-stop race. Obviously, a Blaze had to pit. He had the front wing damage with Narnia, and he would have lose so much time if he stayed out, of course, because he had 100% front wing damage on his Mercedes. Meanwhile, the other Mercedes is doing a brilliant job up in the lead, and I think Valentine's car is starting to struggle because who else is catching? It is Cazizzo and Cohen too, and we'll see who has the upper hand going into, I would say, lap 11, or will it be the slipstream that would help Valentine here? We're seeing one other driver that followed Elting's lead. That is, I think, Elting's teammate of Cohen.
Oh, Valentine's going for it! That's a late one! Oh, and the Mercedes has had to go off-road. Baraka is having to go off the track to try and stay ahead, but Valentine has surprised him here, and there's nearly contact. And look up the inside, because Izzle had to back off as well. These lot are all struggling with the tyres. You saw Baraka was sliding all over the place as well in that last lap. And Cohen pitting, with all that happening at turn 1, Cohen might just have played an absolute masterstroke. He's got so much ERS to play with. He could be right in this now. He's got a clear track, fresh tyres, all the ERS you could ask for, and that turn 1, turn 2 battle could well have just messed these front guys up, because look, they're still struggling for grip. They are nowhere near their maximum pace right now.
Definitely. I think obviously Elton pitting and him making communication with his party member as well, showing what he needs to do as well, and if the tyres feel good as well. So maybe Cohen was struggling and did the right thing as well. Don't forget, Cohen's last win was in China in F2 last season. He was a reserve at that point as well, I believe. So that was his one and only win in F2. As we're seeing more people in the pits, Valentine stays out, Devon stays out, everybody else near the top 10 range who were on the softs are coming into the pits. We'll see then who will come out on top. I think Cohen's going to be miles ahead as we head towards the final corner, or it might be closer than we think. Could the two McLarens be 1 and 2? We saw that in Monza in real life last season. We could see it in PSGL for the opening round of the season. We're going to see that. As
This is close.
Baraka, this is tight, this is very tight. Baraka just about gets into the lead as Cohen is trying to attack on Kazito in towards turn 3. And I have to say, it would have been a lot further back of these if these two drivers didn't get in a squabble with the likes of obviously Valentin earlier on as well. But this has put Cohen right into the battle for the win of this race. Obviously, he'll be on older tyres compared to the one that just pitted, but at least his tyres will be warmer compared to Kazito now. So he's got the upper hand compared to these two right now. But Baraka just edges everybody else on that one. But that will give Valentin some hope here, because he obviously is pitting a bit later than anyone else as well. So if Baraka could do it, maybe Valentin could get the lead back of Baraka from the pit stops. It could be as closer as we think. Devon also goes into the pits as well. He's going to probably be around about where his teammate is on the road. And I think that's everyone that's pitted from the soft to the mediums done their one start. Everybody else that stayed out are the ones who started on the medium compound and sides. And this is where it's going to start to get very, very interesting. So where's Baraka then? Baraka gets towards the start-finish straight, and Valentin comes at the pit, and I think it's going to be tighter than we thought actually as we head towards turn 1. And yep, the undercuts worked. Baraka is in the lead, Valentin is P2, and it's basically like it was before the pit stops.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, when Cohen was coming up to Gazizzle at that pit lane, they did hit as they headed through turn 2, and it's so nearly had Grizzle round, and Valentin's just picked up a penalty there, pushing a little bit on his outlap, perhaps trying to get heat into the tyres, struggling to keep it within track length, but has picked up a penalty, and that might cost him later in the race, because obviously the guys around him are keeping it clean. And they've got a good gap, this train, by the way, to the next car in front of Las Vegas, so they can just fight between themselves. Devon is now sitting very nicely indeed. He's sitting a net P5, so his impressive debut keeps getting better. He's now on the back of Cohen, ahead of Santori, which is really good to see. And yeah, the F3 champion does appear to be right on the pace here.
That is what we like to see, champions that go into a high tier 2 well as well and not seem to struggle as well, which shows that you deserve to be there at this moment in time. So I think that Devon will be pretty happy with himself as well, because if you get promoted to F1, for example, you'll just be happy to score a point. So I think he's definitely living up to everybody's expectations as well, but he's got a chasing Santiari right behind him as well in turn 1. He can't get past either. So Devon is just holding his own right now. Maybe Devon could take advantage of the carnage that will ensue, because he's got the freshest tyres out of anybody compared to Kazito and Karen. Valentin hopefully could think about the other drivers battling and hope that he doesn't get into a battle himself. And also we got Baraka, who's probably going to be at the huge disadvantage because he won't have any DRS to play with, whereas everybody else will have some DRS very, very soon as they head towards up the hill towards turn 8, and it's very, very steep as well as they go down. So I think it's going to be Baraka versus Valentin once again, but I think Valentin with the fresher tyres, he could be back to his form as we saw at the beginning of the race. He only struggled because he had much worn tyres, and I think he was over pushing it in the first stint. That was why Baraka was able to get the lead from Valentin. Baraka, I think, is better with his tyre management compared to Valentin right now, but we'll see towards the end of the race. That's probably why Valentin pitted later, because he can make those tyres last about the same length as Baraka, who pitted roughly about exactly the same time. I think maybe last year as well. Here we go, we got the battle for the lead once again. There was a net race lead as Valentin gets past Baraka into turn 1. Does he do it? Yes, he does, but I don't think it's going to be over yet, as Baraka's right on the back of him in towards turn 3, and then we've got Kazizzle, Curran now on the fight as well, Devon, Santiari as well. If everyone else keeps battling, we've got the likes of Louis and Azzy will be in this as well. Heading towards turn 5 to it, no change, so Valentin's move was crucial. He's got the fresher tyres, he is in the lead of the race.
Yeah, no real surprise there for Valentin. He's absolutely been driving a bit more aggressively than Baraka was at the last couple of laps. In fact, he got very close on the last lap to being in a position to make a move, so he certainly was happy to get it done quickly. It's about whether he can make a gap, though, which would be enough to get out of DRS, and that's going to be the struggle, because the 2 DRS zones will keep you relatively close for the whole lap. I do think Valentin's the quicker driver. I mean, qualifying is a pretty good indicator of where he is, but look at him sliding as he pushes to try and get away. Meanwhile, in the fight for the lead, this could be important. We've got Andrea, we've got Legend, we've got CC Brain, Louis, and Jax all in a fight further up. Any incident between those lot could affect this with safety cars, etc. As Valentine does set the fastest lap. Baraka, though, with the DRS, the gains that Valentine's making are being undone by that DRS zone. So even though it's clear the Ferrari driver is quicker, he's doing the job, Baraka, of just staying close. But you will have noticed Las Vegas up ahead. I'm sure Valentine will be hoping that his teammate is a little bit kinder to him than he is to the rest, and that could be his ticket to a 1 second gap, because I do think once he gets that, he might well be able to pull away, especially if Baraka ends up under pressure from Kazizel, Cohen, Devin, Santry, Kryptonite, and KJ, who's actually side by side with Asi at the minute as they head through this fight, winning by Asi at the minute, so he's through. And Tom also in there as well, but those guys have a little bit of catching up to do if these guys start fighting. But yeah, the DRS is all I think that's keeping Baraka in this right now. Unless, of course, he's sort of saving his tires for later. But judged by his ERS, etc., I think he is actually giving it everything. And I don't think it's quite working.
Yeah, around about 33%, and if he was saving his tyres, I think it would have been about the 40-50 range. So yeah, he's definitely giving it his all right now, on track.
Look at this. Valentine is going to get a superb tow.
Here we go,
and that
then.
is really bad news. That is terrible news.
And DRS.
If you are Baraka. No, look at that.
That's
Las Vegas.
brilliant.
Look at that.
That
He's
was
letting
brilliant.
through. And that is fantastic team play. And do you know what? Fair play. He's letting the rest through as well. He's not going to mess him about it, but he certainly gave his teammate a very handy tow and, of course, the DRS indeed. As we have yellow flags. That is for Azzy, actually. So he was fighting with Elting on the last lap. He's now fallen down, having had a spin. But you can see the gap. Baraka now 8/10 back from Valentine. Look, he's using his whole tank of ERS to try and keep close. I still think, though, by the end of the lap, Valentine might be able to get that second. And if he does, Baraka will be looking back to Kazizel, who's got way more ERS. He actually has still got around the 60, high 60s, early 70s in ERS. He's been saving the whole time, Kazizel. I mentioned it earlier. He's playing the long game. Baraka, this might be sort of falling away from him, but he's just about still in DRS range. Let's see. No, he's not.
No, he's not.
He's just fallen out. He's had a few bad corners. Oh, it's going to be tight. Will he make it? No, he ran out of ERS. Ran out of ERS.
That's
and
good news for Valentine.
Valentine also emptied his tank on that lap just to get the second, and he's done it. And this could be his ticket to victory. Let's see, because Baraka, I can only see him falling further back now. And Kazizel suddenly all over him. How quickly is he going to make the move? It's crucial for Valentine that he doesn't make it quickly, but I can't really see him not, because he'll be so much quicker on the straights, Kazizel. He'll get him on the next lap, surely.
Surely he will as well, and I have to say bravo to Las Vegas. I thought him being a new driver, he wouldn't help any of his teammates out, but I think it just goes to show that they are working together and they care about the constructors more than anything as well. And I know Las Vegas was probably out of a fight anyway, so bravo to doing that as well. He reminds me of Sergio Perez a little bit as well, Las Vegas at the moment, and I think that's what you need in a teammate. He's kind of, I think early impressions is showing that Las Vegas is playing the wingman situation at the moment, which is not liking Baraka one bit, because his teammate Ablaze is down in last place, so his teammate is not helping anyone at all as well. So we've got one of the first of the medium runners going into the pits, that is Andrea. Same with Dino as well as CC Brain and Legend. We're having a bit of a fight there. CC Brain is in the lead on a track, but what is the gap to Baraka and Kazizel? Oh, it's going to be very, very tight. I think Kazizel's going to have the advantage due to the DRS once again. 1.4 is the gap between Valentina and Baraka. This is bad news for Baraka. This could be the chance of victory slipping away here. He had so many chances last season as well. He had the victory in hand in some of the races, but he just couldn't do it. This could be a race for what could have been right now. As we almost saw an AlphaTauri in the background of Devin trying to get past Cohen. He couldn't quite do it as well, but we're seeing Andrea and Dinah. They've gone on a softs very, very early. Question is, can they get to the end? They only last 13 laps. I thought they would have pitted a few laps ago, a few laps later, but we've seen it work before in some of the tiers. Can it make work here? We'll have to wait and see, and will the top 5 jump the guns and pit onto the soft 2, or will they wait a few more laps?
I think we saw that last season where people pitted a bit earlier for the softs, and I think they were able to make it to the end.
Yeah.
Because of the lighter tanks, etc. So they wouldn't wear the tyres out as much. So I think they will be alright. And imagine everyone else pitting. I think they all are pitting. Perhaps, yes, they all are pitting. So they'll all be on the softs, I imagine. And we'll see how they get on. A safety car, and they're all right into play. But for now, we can finally see the leaders back at the front. And Kazizel, well, he's not using any of his ERs. I just don't really see why he's not making a move at the minute, because he must know Valentine's got the penalty, but I suppose he doesn't sit to lose anything as such by not passing, but it's just if Valentine gets away and then he tries to pass and can't, then he's in trouble. So surely he'd want to get ahead now and just be comfortable, but I suppose you're always at risk of being DRS passed, but we'll see how they handle it, because as it stands, Baraka on every single straight is hitting 0, so he cannot be going that quickly in a straight line.
Yeah, because you lose so much power where you have the battery on very low. I think when you get to about 10% is where you start to lose the power as well on the straight. So Baraka pretty much has got little to low straight line speed compared to Kazizel. That's why Kazizel is able to keep up right now. So Eliza Curran is Kazizel. Had a bit of a tank slapper there. He's gone a bit wide. That's allowing Curran to be within about 3/10 of Kazizel then. And that will allow Baraka to get the gap that he needs. Now Kazizel's out of DRS range of Baraka, but soon he'll get back to him. No, he won't. The detection point is done and dusted. So this will allow Curran to potentially get the podium spot away from Kazizel. Here he goes. Battle for P3, it seems like. Unbelievable scenes from Cohen, and a mistake from Kazizel has cost the chance there. We got Devon as well out of all of this. F3 champion from last season is making moves here in this tier of F2, showing that he can mix with the best of the best. We were talking about experience earlier on in this broadcast. Well, Devon is just showing you don't need experience in F2 to do well. If you have the talent and if you have the pressure to fight with these the big guns, then obviously you'll do well. He's probably used to being at the front in F3 last season anyway, so in a way, he's probably pretending that he's fighting the likes of obviously Tom, who was in F3 last season as well, and his F3 compatriots as well. He's probably just pretending that is the case, and that's a good mindset to be like for him, it's just cars on the track, and he just got to fight them as well. So I literally do not know who's going to get the podium. I think Valentina and Baraka may have it set on the track right now because they've got it clear between each other anyway, but who's going to get P3? This is going to get very, very exciting. No retirement so far, touchwood, and the ones who did get damaged, they're still carrying on as well, so fair play to them as well, but I probably jinxed him here, so I'm not going to say anything more.
Again, look, because this has just not got any straight line speed.
Here comes Devon, going for a move into turn 1, going to be free abreast.
Because Zizzle's being carried out by a deer. Oh no!
Devon!
And Devon has wiped out Cohen as he tried to get through on the inside. And Zizzle, well, he's in the free air now. But what I was saying is that that's what Zizzle should have been doing before, just DRSing straight past when he had the chance. Perhaps he wasn't close enough to Baraka to do it, but if he had just done that before, I guess he wouldn't have been in that situation. But in fairness, he's now had 2 of his rivals wiped out of the situation, so I suppose he won't be too upset about how he's played that. We do have other fights going on. We've got Tom wheel binding with Elting because they head through. The guys have started on the softs, having been outside the top 10, remember, and Tom currently coming out on top there. CC, Braid and Bolin are going to be all over us. In fact, Bolin is all over us. He's trying to get 2 cars at once, and he might well have a bit of contact with Tom, but he does get Elting. He then taps his rear as the Williams loses it a little bit and then goes to the inside of Tom. So these guys, the midfield fight, certainly heating up as well. And CC Brain on these piping hot, brand new softs is surely going to be fancying a move, maybe by 1 or 2 cars here. And Devon, he might fall further back as well. I'm not too sure what damage is on his Alpha Tower, but it certainly looks like he's pit lane bound. And so he's out of the running effectively as CC Brain gets 1, gets 2. Will he get 3? I think he might well try down the inside. And that is new softs for you. And they're taking full advantage of the situation. CC Brain is up into 8th. He can chase after Andrea, who's quickly catching up to Kryptonite. He could be right in there. Oh, Eltink One McLaren on the last lap, another one on this lap. And he's fallen to 15th place this time. Didn't fall as far as Cohen did, as Tom and Bolin are still binding wheel to wheel. This midfield fight is fantastic. But as I was saying, Andrea and CC Brain, they'll be catching to Kryptonite. Oh, Tom's off as well! And he might just cut the grass, and that's a... Well, in fairness, he's made the corner, hasn't he? So he'll recover just about. No damage, I'd imagine, there. But if these guys would stop crashing for 1 second, Andrea and CC Brain will be so much quicker than Kryptonite and Cohen and perhaps Century. They could be, at the end of this race, fighting for Kazizzle's P3. That's where they're aiming for. And all that midfield fighting, that was 2 people on the mediums wiped out of the situation. That just means the soft runners can move up the field a bit quicker. And so they might also have a chance. A safety car, like I say, they're right in this.
Yes, we've seen the alternate strategy work very well in some races in the PC tier last week in Portugal, and I think the soft runners are proving that they can do it as well, as we've got Andrea fighting on Kryptonite. Let's just say, by the way, Kryptonite has fallen under the radar a little bit, up to 6th place. He's doing a solid job right now as KJ's out of the race. He's retired in the pit lane. He hasn't made much overtakes, but he's got involved in less carnage, and that's where he needs to be right now in P6. And to be honest, he'll be quite happy with that after spending a few seasons in F3 and F4, I have to say. So, solid job from him so far, and I'm sure he's going to be under pressure for Andrea right now, but I'm sure he'll probably get used to it right now. And I think Baraka, he's just got to close in right now. He's got to close in. Well, he's really much got to close in right now, because otherwise Valentine will just increase the gap, and the penalty will become meaningless. But speaking of Valentine, actually, he got 6 seconds.
Yeah.
He got 6 seconds of penalties. Whilst we were involved in these battles, he picked up another one. So, to be honest, he's going to jump way off the podium spot at this rate, and that will put pretty much Baraka in definitely the hot seat right now. But we did see the likes of Cohen spin earlier, so don't become complacent, Baraka. They got to at least keep it on the road. So let's see what Andrea could do. CC Brain did it earlier on, and Andrea's going to do it now, this time with 1 car. Andrea's up to P6, and he is in for another good shot. Tom's out of the race. Is that another retirement in the pit lane? Yes, it is. So we haven't had any retirements on track at the moment, just retirements from the pit lane. So
look at this. Jackson Bond, sorry to interrupt, but they're side by side the whole way through that first sector. And that's dragging Louis into the fight as well. And this could be another 3-car scrap. We're seeing so much of this in the midfield. Look at that. Right outside of both of them goes Louis. And I think he's going to make that one sick. That was a sweet move. And he's up into P9. So that was good stuff from the Alfa Romeo. Jumping a soft runner and all that as well, which is always useful. And yeah, really good driving that.
That was good driving. I think with the midfield battling has been the most entertaining this race as well as the battle of the lead earlier on as well. So the midfield drivers could basically keep it up. We saw that in Bahrain last season, didn't we? Where in the opening round, where we saw the guys in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th just going all at it for the majority of the race. They didn't care that they may not get as much points. They just want to have fun and have a little bit of a fight as well. So to be honest, one of the moves of the stream so far for Louis, brilliant job so far. And he's going to have a bit of trouble getting past the Red Bull drivers, but it's going to be easier for Andrea to get past Cohen, because Cohen's on the medium. So Andrea up another place, up into 5th position. Now let's look at the delta actually between the softs and the mediums. 5/10 per second, so not much compared to other tracks. You need to really be gaining a few if you want to gain, I think 3 or 4 seconds, maybe around about 3 or 4 laps, I would say. It's hard for Andrea, so he probably could stay 5th, but he did have a bit of an off from Dino, turn 4, and he's got front wing damage.
Luckily, no safety car for that one, like I say. It can get deployed for that when a car is strewn across the track with a front wing flying off, but he will recover. But unfortunately, that'll be him falling probably to the back, won't it? So I think at the front what we're waiting for now, I suppose, as we see the gaps, obviously, Andrea needs to catch another 2.5 seconds to get in front of Valentine. So Valentine might possibly fall to 5th here, if it all goes wrong. And a Santori and Kazizzle fight, which they are about to start now, that could help Andrea to catch up. And so this is for a net 2nd place, this fight. So Santori up into a net 2nd, and Kazizzle doesn't seem to be fighting back so much. That doesn't really help Andrea at all, really. As Jax and Louis, they fight, and Jax gets back ahead of Louis. And up into P9 again. So those two will keep scrapping away. But yeah, I think Andrea might well just be routed to P5 until the end of this now. It just depends how quickly he can catch Valentine, but the softs can't be half a second quicker than the mediums forever, I'd imagine. There'll be some sort of drop-off from both tyres, in fairness, but I think you'd see it more harshly on the softs than you would on the mediums, so he might not close that gap.
No, I doubt it as well. I think it will drop ever so slightly the advantage that the soft has, because obviously the softs drop off earlier compared to the mediums as well. But these guys have been on the mediums since pretty much 14 laps ago as well, so their tyres will start to drop off even more, so it may start to cancel out very, very soon as well. Luckily, no one went on the hard compounded tyres at all this race, which I wouldn't advise you doing, because the hard tyres are an absolute nightmare around this track, as we're already on the final stages of this race. Lap 28 of 33. Valentine leads. Well, he's not going to get the net race lead at the moment, because he's still got 6 seconds worth of penalties. Baraka is your net race leader with no penalties so far. We've got the 2 Red Bulls fighting side by side. CC Brainy gets past Kryptonite. That's him up another position. Up into P7, and he is, yeah, he's actually a net P6 right now because he's got no penalties. So he may not need to pass Cohen, but that could be crucial in him probably closing the gap to every other driver that does have penalties too. So I wonder what CC Brain can do. Cohen and Andrea fighting again through Torre Vips. This is just very, very exciting. Cohen, I'm liking this comeback from him despite that spin, which shows he didn't get as much damage as everyone else did, so as Devin did. So Cohen at least not giving up without a fight. He would have been fine for a podium, but at least he's given something to cheer about in this race towards the end. And to be honest, there's been some standout drivers, and I have to say, Baraka is doing all he can to keep this lead right now, because he's within. He's already broken the DRS from Santari as well, which has helped Kazizel a little bit more as well. And could Kazizel get a podium that he's looking for a long time after his string of bad luck last season? I think he's going to get the DRS, but again, he's not quite close enough this lap. So maybe next lap or at the next detection point.
Yeah, we'll see how that all pans out. Both of those two are sort of low on the ERS, as long as they can just keep the gap to Valentine, which isn't actually that much of a guarantee. Valentine is pulling out all the stops here to try and hold on to his second place, and we'll see if he can do so. And then Cohen is still sticking on the back of Andrea. What's his penalties like though? He's 3 seconds, so CC Ray will probably jump him. And as you say, good to see Cohen still up there, having had the collision with Devin, which, having watched back, in fairness, was I probably was a bit harsh on actually Devin saying he fully went out, because Cohen turned it a bit early as well. It's more just racing incident between those two. So regardless, good to see them both making it to the end anyway. I think both of them have had strong performances today, and I hope the incident doesn't just sort of cancel any of that out, because it should still be pointed out that they've been very good. There's been a lot, as you say, such strong performances. Even Eltink and Tom, they both had their incidents as well, but they came from the back to be fighting right up in the points too. I think it's a very good field we've got this season, and I do hope that they'll be, yeah, happy with today. Regardless of what went wrong, there's good points for pretty much everyone today.
Huge positives, I have to say, even if you're retired as well, because you can fight against the big guns as well. So, and it is still 14 rounds to go after this one as well. So the championship is not over in race 1. So if you have a bad race here, but if you're near the points, then this could help you with that momentum, as Cohen gets past Andrea, or Andrea was trying to get past Cohen, but Cohen is doing some great defending at the moment. He's going to try and make sure that Andrea does not get past on track, but it's easier said than done. Look at Cohen's ERS. He's running out quite rapidly. They almost made contact into Torre Vip late on the brakes there as well. CC Brain's also in the fight. Also, Louis is too as well. And of course, we've got Jack's penalties to worry about. So Louis will possibly be in this fight very soon. So he could get into 9th or 8th place, depending on the penalty situation. I think a few people are mainly on 3 seconds. I think it's only Valentine that's on 6. Yeah, it's only Valentine that's on 6 inside the top 10. And then we got Las Vegas on 9 in 14th. Same with Azzy with 9 in 17th position. And that's him another penalty with 12. So he's got the most penalties so far out of anyone in this grid. 3.5 seconds is the gap between Valentine and Baraka. If he did not get that penalty, that extra penalty, Valentin would have done enough to win this race, but he's got to take his bed and lie on it.
Oh.
Can he get the gap to 6 seconds to get the win? I think it's going to be harder, but the tyres are starting to drop off by both of them.
I would say Baraka's one warning away from a penalty. So, you know, it could happen. I doubt Baraka would throw it away like that. But, you know, there is still a chance for Valentin. He is, I'm sure, pushing right to the very end anyway, because he's got to make another 0.6 of a second on Santry to claim a podium, and well, to claim that second place effectively, because he's close to Gazizzle. Both of them are just within 6 seconds. I think within 3 laps of them, they should be able to get the gap up, because I have a feeling that Santry and Gazizzle might have one more side-by-side moment in them, and that could just hold them back by enough. So we'll see how that works, but one mistake from Baraka here, and it could still go Valentin's way. And again, even if Valentin doesn't get the victory, here he is, in the closing stage of a race. He qualified P1, he still runs P1. Regardless of anything, that is such a big step up from where he was last season. I'm sure, regardless of it, he'll be thrilled with this. Just to be able to get to the end in such a competitive phase, because we've said so much last season about how unlucky he was in the Haas. He just kept spinning. That was his problem. But today, it's just been a couple of penalties that's done him in, but realistically, he's kept it on the road, he's done the job, and he will be one to watch for the season, which is obviously great to see. More fighting further back, we've had Cohen continuing his fight with Andrea, getting overtaken, having just passed Andrea on the previous lap, so they're going back and forth. And yeah, I wonder if CC Brain will be able to get involved in that. I think he's going to beat Cohen anyway, thanks to the penalty, but I'm sure he'll want to try and get Andrea if he can. But yeah, 4 seconds to gap now up front, but they're all just winding it to the end, aren't they? Gazizzle and Santry, will they have one more fight? Will Gazizzle be thinking about that 6 seconds? Because he will be able to see the gaps at Valentin, of course, won't he? Or will he actually? Well, he might not actually. But
Yeah,
regardless,
I think he will. I think he will. I think they see the top 5 in the field as well. They get to see the top 5 drivers. So
yeah, do they?
I think
he's
in a 5. Yeah, he's 4th. So
yeah.
nah.
So he'd see it to second place, so he wouldn't actually get to see it. And he is falling outside it now, and he's not even close enough to Santry anyway. So ignore basically my entire point there. He's actually not going to be in position to do that unless Valentin makes another mistake, which is good for Valentin because the podium now is in his hands. Although it does keep going back and forth, we'll see how it ends up going because it keeps going up and down, up and down. CC Brain is now side by side with Cohen and through into turn 1, and he's going to try and, well, somehow get by Andrea with no ERS. I don't think he's quite going to be able to do that either, but still, a move on the last lap. He always likes to see it. Valentin makes another half second on Baraka, who's slowly fallen into the grips of Santry, who's just made a mistake, and Gazizzle possibly gets close, but not close enough. They're still just about holding on to that podium. It's fascinating watching Gazizzle's gap go up, down, up, down, up, down. It's going to be so tight to see who gets this podium.
It is going to be tight as well, and we're just about to end this race as well for these guys, and Baraka could be on course be getting the first win of the season, and he could be the driver that's tipped one to watch. A few drivers pointed out that Baraka was their rival, and we could be proven right here today. So here comes Valentin up to the line, and he hasn't got any points all season last season. He's going to get his first point of the season. He's potentially going to get a third place in this, but Baraka wins in Portugal. Santari gets a stellar result in P2. Valentin in 3rd. Gazizzle 4th by 8/100ths of a second. Valentin pretty much made the podium by this amount. That was insane. Andrea 5th. CC Brain couldn't quite get him on the line. We got Louis, Cohen, Kryptonite and Ricky. Where did Ricky come from? He was spinning with Dino in the back earlier on. And he's up to 7th place. A good recovery from the Alpine car. And they're getting points so far. I'm trying to think, is that every car in... No, actually, no, it's not every car in the points because 2 Red Bulls are in the points. So, because obviously 2 Williams are not in the points. That probably explains why. But what a story for Baraka and starting the season on a high. And Valentin with his first point and his first podium in PSGL history.
Well, it's typical, isn't it? The 2 drivers who we could argue had the most unfulfilled potential last season have finished 1-2 in the season opener, so they've definitely come back strong. Well, they finished 1 and 3 actually, but 1 and 2 on track, and so that's definitely a good start for them too. And then good to see Sentry up there as well. A very good podium for that first race, and I think a good sign that this will be a decent season. And I do hope that the quality stays as high as that, because certainly the driving in general sense was really good today. So a very good season opener, I'd say. I enjoyed that one.
I enjoyed that one as well. And the only retirements we had were people, I think, in the pit lane retiring because they've had bad luck. We had no major instance, no major retirements which caused any safety cars. So hopefully the stewards won't be as busy compared to the other tiers this week. So I think Kryptonite will have an easy job with this too, I think. So here we go. We got Baraka, Centauri, Valentine, Kazizzle, Andrea, CC Brain, Louis, Cohen, Kryptonite, and Ricky are your point scorers. Then we got Jax, Bowen, Legend, Devon, who was very, very unlucky earlier on. Blaze, Las Vegas, and Azzy are your finishers. And only 3 retirements, all 3 of them retired in the pit lane. Dino, Tom, and Eltink as well. So those were your 3 retirements. And that was the season opener. So many drivers of the day. Obviously, Valentine and honourable mention for actually getting his car into the points. Obviously, Santeriari, who did a brilliant job of just pretty much keeping on the pretty much hardly any carnage from him as well. And obviously, Baraka getting that first win. I don't know. Who would you give driver of the day to?
I mean, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because there really is so many. It's a tough one. Because I want to give it to Valentine for his overall performance, but he got the penalties, didn't he? So it's a tricky one. I really don't know who to give this to. You've put me on the spot now. I can't give it to the whole field, can I? But do you know what? We'll just give it to Santry in fairness, because he did quite well to end up on the podium in the end, fighting his way past Kazizzle, etc. Because he came from a bit further back and was maybe slightly less focused on in the race, but I'd say he did actually quite well from where he was to make the podium in the end and get a 2nd place.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting him to be fighting with the top guys at the front as well, so I think he was one of my picks. But to be fair, I'm going to give mine to Valentine for actually keeping in the points and on the podium as well, and not binning it at all this race, and putting the pressure on the big guns. So I have to say, Valentine for pretty much pole to win on track, shame with the penalties, but I would have to give it to Valentine, my driver of the day. But obviously, Santiari, a close second. Now, we're just hopefully going to wait for our drivers to go into the podium interviews. Now, with Fabi in F1, we're very unlikely we could get anybody in these podium interviews anymore.
Oh, no. I forgot about that.
Yeah, because the only person that we usually get in these interviews last season was Fabi, but it was lucky because obviously Fabi was champion. I got to interview him quite a lot at the end of last season, but no sign of anyone at the moment. But next week, if we look at the calendar, we head to Silverstone for round 2, British Grand Prix, most people's home track. Some people had very bad luck last season around this track, including Kazizzle's DQ. Hopefully that won't come back to bite him. Hopefully no disqualifications under the safety car for Kazizzle next week, please. Hopefully the game has fixed itself for that as well. And we'll see how the drivers fare at the home of British Motorsport. So I am trying to blabble on here as we're trying to get people in, and it doesn't look like we're not going to get anyone, which is a shame. But hopefully, I think they probably did know, so hopefully we'll get some next week. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Well, I would say that was a very good race in terms of just the general quality of the everyone's pace. Again, so close. It's good to see how well put together the tiers are every season, just how they can consistently be so good and so close. And Silverstone is a great track for racing in general. I do think we should be in for a good one next time, so do tune in for it.
Yes, indeed. To be fair, Louis and Connor doing a great job as always, putting the tiers together, and I'm looking forward to next week for sure, and the rest of the season. So if you haven't had enough of all the Portugal action tonight, we got F1 on right now and led towards the end of their qualifying session. Make sure you check that out. We also got F5, F6, F8 and F9 on right now, so if you want to check those out, that'll be absolutely fantastic. And of course, you can watch all the other streams back, which were on at the same time as us, obviously F4 and F7 as well. and F3 too. I think F3 is still going on because they had a delayed lobby start. So make sure you watch those. Make sure you join us same time next week, 7 p.m. Be there. British Grand Prix is going to be a very, very close one. We saw close qualifying last season. I'm sure we're going to get the same this season as well around Silverstone. I've been Jessica Ball, and of course we've had Owen Wyatt in the commentary box with me as well. Have a good evening. Enjoy the final Portugal streams of the evening, and we will see you very, very soon. Bye-bye.